Hello, and thank you for buying one of our 3D printed replacements for the stock Harry Potter Castle mod for the collector's edition. This video is going to walk you through the steps needed to install the new pieces, and the whole process should take less than an hour. So let's get going. As you can see, we are starting with the completely stock topper. In your kit, you will get the following pieces: 2 side towers, 1 main tower with a cone, a left-sided building, a right-sided building, a large 3D piece for your flat acrylic, 3 smaller 3D pieces for the 3 towers on that side, and 1 little Harry Potter silhouette for your flat acrylic. These are the tools that you will need for this installation. You'll need an 11/32 inch nut driver. An 11/32 inch crescent wrench is handy if you have it, and I'll show you there's a step specifically where the nut driver has difficulty getting to the nut. If you don't have an 11/32 wrench, because they're not terribly common, you can use a pair of needle nose pliers in a pinch. You'll need a screwdriver, a Phillips head screwdriver. I like to use a small one because there are a couple of areas that it's difficult to get into if you use a regular size screwdriver. But if you want to use a regular size screwdriver, you can get through about 90% of the installation. The only one you'll really struggle with is replacing that flat plastic, which is these tower pieces here. In the kit, you're going to get 4 pieces. You will get a golden snitch that is mounted on a piece of wire. You'll notice that it's bent in a specific direction, which is towards the back. That's to give it extra clearance. And then there's a 3D printed piece here. A 3D printed Harry figure on a custom bent wire. A 3D printed Hedwig that is also on a custom cut piece of acrylic. And a bridge that will have adhesive pieces on the feet here. This one doesn't because it's a prototype, but the one that you will get will have adhesive pieces here. All right, let's get started. All right, first step is to remove the stock buildings. You can do this in any order you want. I'm gonna start with the one on the right. There are 4 stop nuts that hold this building in place, 2 here in the front, and 2 on either side in the rear. Use your 11/32 nut driver to remove these nuts. With those stop nuts removed, this entire assembly will come free. You will notice there are 2 LEDs that are attached to these bottom brackets. They cross each other, okay? I find this installation easiest to do with this entire assembly off of the game. So you can just grab these and they will pop out of their holders. Just be careful to do it gently and don't break these little holders. Now this can be removed from the game. Okay, so with this right-sided building removed, you have easy access to your acrylic piece. So this is a good opportunity to go ahead and install your 3D pieces. You have 2 towers. One is marked L and the other is marked R. The one marked R goes on the right-sided tower here, and the one marked L goes on the one that's further to the left. You have this larger piece that's going to go on this tower that's more centralized. And then you have your big piece that's going to go over the rest of it. When you install this, you really want to make sure that you get as much light through the windows as possible. So it's helpful to have a friend at the player's view to make sure that that you get this on correctly so that it will shine through. If you line up all of the towers with the graphic, it should be fine, but just make sure as you're installing it. These all have adhesive on the back, so you need to peel off all of these to expose the adhesive, and then make sure that it's in the right position before you stick this down, because if you have to remove it, you're going to lose some of the adhesive and you're going to have to, it's going to be a challenge to get it done. So one tip, this peak here you need to put on last because there is a notch in this piece that this needs to go over. So you're going to want to put the large piece on first, then put this peak on after that. And that way it'll go on correctly. This is what you should look like after this step. Okay, the Harry Potter silhouette there's been installed. And you've got all this here. So I'm standing at the player's view, and you can see the lights through the windows. Again, I will tell you that if you're standing at the side of the game, you're gonna want someone standing at the player's view to help you align it because you will be off from your perspective. So just make sure you get those on correctly. We have the little Harry Potter silhouette adhered up there as well. Now, you're gonna have your original snitch plastic here. It's held on by 2 screws, and then there's a single screw here that holds it to the motor. You're gonna remove this silver screw. And so you just kind of have to hold the snitch in place so that it comes free. This screw may be kind of tight when you first take it off from the factory. So you just have to hold the snitch in place at the base here so that it doesn't just rotate the motor back and forth. Once you have that screw free, you can just reach here at the base and pry this off of the motor like that. Okay, so what you'll see is there's a little tined nub here, and there's a receptacle piece here. Now, what we have to do is reuse this piece, so I'm going to show you how to do that next. Okay, what we've got here is your original snitch plastic mounted on the mounting bracket and your new one. Okay, so what you see is there are some small stop nuts on the back, and there's a screw on the front. So take your needle nose pliers, grab the stop nut, and then just take the screw out. Now this one's already a little bit loose because I just had it barely tightened to show this video. Once again, it may be a little bit tighter on your original installation, but this will come out pretty easily. Okay, like that. And now you're going to set that plastic aside. And now what you're going to do is take your new snitch, and it goes sandwiched just like that. Okay, so the back end goes, there's a recessed piece here. It's going to go this way. Also notice the back of your snitch goes to this part of the little plastic piece. That's where it goes into the motor. So make sure that's in the back. After that, just put your screws in and get your blind nuts started, and then tighten all this together. Okay, you'll see it's an exact fit. You should not have to do any sort of adjustments or anything. If things aren't exactly fitting right where they are, double check, come back to the video, because we engineered this to be completely compatible with your original pieces. Now I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to use my needle nose pliers and my screwdriver to just screw these down and tighten it up. Okay, make sure it's good and solid. Your snitch is now ready for installation. Make sure you put your original plastic somewhere safe so you don't lose it, and we're going to go back to the game. Okay, to install the snitch, well, you need to make sure that it's going to be in the correct position. So to do that, go into your service menu, open your coin door, press your black enter button. You go into this menu, down one to full menu. You're going to select tests, go down to device tests, hit enter, go down to CE topper, right there. Hit enter. Okay. Now, this is your broom flag. You're going to hit advance until you get to the snitch. Okay. That's the right side stitch. It goes right, center, left. So you advance one more. That's the center. Now you can install your snitch. Okay, now that we've centered this motor, all you do is press this new snitch onto the fitting. Take your screw, place it into the hole, and tighten it down. Okay, once again, once it gets tight, just grab the snitch itself and tighten it down. Now we're gonna go back to the menu and test the snitch. Okay, with our snitch installed, we can test the travel. So that's the left side. Go backwards to go back to center. Backwards one more time to the right. That's what your snitch should look like. And when it's in the center position, you should be straight up and down. Now you can reinstall your building. Okay, so after you've removed your stock building, you're going to be left with this base plate. I will point out that you're going to need to keep 8 screws from your original building. You're going to have 2 extra screws that go into these brackets. These brackets are not used. So what I do is I just keep them on the stock building. Just tighten that up real quick. And then you can put your 2 extra screws into the actual brackets just for safekeeping so you don't lose them. So now what we're going to do is place this building onto the base, and you're going to put all 4 screws into the building, but don't tighten them all down yet. There's a screw that goes in each of these 4 elongated holes. Okay, with the building now installed, you can put on the side towers. They're held on by 2 screws that go in these 2 elongated holes on the side. Again, we don't use the stock bracket because this 3D printed material is rigid enough to stay up without it. So just install 2 screws on either side for your towers. Okay, here's your completed building. Make sure when you install these towers that the bases are all the way down flush against the plate so that it fits together correctly. Let's put it on the game. Okay, to install this building, you're going to reinstall your 2 LEDs, and then this metal base plate will go back down onto these 4 posts. Make sure that your paper light shield here is down on both of the far posts, because this metal plate goes on top of that paper light shield to hold it down. Make sure that you remember that your LEDs cross here, so when you install it, make sure that they cross. And all you do to install these is push them up into those little brackets. Make sure you don't break them. So to install this, just make sure that your wires are not binding, and put it down onto the studs like that. What I like to do after this is finger tight one of the nuts on either side of the corners with enough wiggle room so I can move this up and down, which makes the front nuts easier to install. Okay, with the rear 2 just finger tight, you'll see I have some play back and forth here. That is useful to get these nuts started. So get them started on the post and then just rock it back, and you can bring that nut almost all the way down, and it makes it a whole lot easier to install these front ones. To tighten this building down, use your 11/32 nut driver for the rear 2 stop nuts. And this is where your crescent wrench will come in handy. If you don't have an 11/32 crescent wrench, you can use a pair of needle nose pliers. So I'm going to tighten this down. With the right-sided building installed, we'll move on to do the left. Okay, for this left-sided building, there are 3 pieces: this cone, the tower, and then the building. You need to take all of them off. They're all Phillips head screws. One thing I'm going to point out is the lower screw here is a short screw. That is so that the hairy figure will not hit it when it goes around the circle. So you have to put the lower screw, the short screw, when you reinstall the new piece. So I'm going to show you that real quick here as I take this out. So this is the short screw. There are 3 screws that hold this tower in, 2 regular sized screws, and 1 short screw. So just remove all 3, and then remove the cone piece. The next step is to replace this flat plastic. It is held on by 2 screws that are on the back side, and this is where your short screwdriver is going to come in very handy because it's a little bit of a tight fit back here. All of your screws are the same size with the exception of that 1 short screw, so they're all interchangeable except for the short one. Okay, again, don't lose your plastic. This tower is held on by 4 screws. There are 3 at the bottom, and there is 1 here that goes into a bracket. Remove all 4. With all 4 screws removed, the tower piece can be taken off. You do need to keep this bracket and remember the orientation of it, okay? It's an angled bracket and the angle points towards the front of the tower. Now we can remove this building. To do so, you have to remove the stop nuts that are in the back that hold the plate down. So use your 11/32 nut driver and do that. There are 3 stop nuts that hold this base on. There are 2 behind this building, and there is 1 right here on the tower piece. All 3 need to be removed. With those 3 nuts removed, the base can come free. Now I want to point out, you got to be careful of your Hedwig plastic here. Make sure that you don't catch it with these wires as you bring it free. So there's our 3 stop nuts for this. Now, there are 2 screws that hold this building in. There's 1 here and there's 1 over here on the side, which is why you have to take the stop nuts off to get to that one. So just remove this one. And then to get to this one, you have to kind of tilt it upwards and get to it this way. Okay, there's your building removed. At the end of this process, you will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 long screws and 1 short screw, as well as 3 stop nuts. Save all of them. All right, the next step is going to be to transfer the bracket from the tower piece to your new tower piece. So let's do that. Okay, the hardware piece you need to transfer for the left side of the building is this bracket. It goes on the outside of the building like that, and it's held on with a screw from the inside. Good. When you install this bracket, you want to make sure that it's at a right angle and it's coming straight out and it's square, because when you go to put this in, you want that hole in the exact right spot. So make sure that it's square, and you can use this little ridge as a line. All right, first thing I do is install this back piece. So again, just same exact location as the original, and just use your 2 standard screws. to install it. Installation of this building is the reverse of what we did before. So take your base plate, and I put this far screw on first, and then you will have a front screw that goes in this elongated hole right here. With the building now installed, you can reinstall your base plate onto the 3 studs like that, and use your 3 stop nuts to tighten that down. All right, I have not tightened down. I've just put these stop nuts to finger tightness, so I have some wiggle room here. And you're now going to install your tower. To do that, this bracket has to go behind this wall. So you just kind of wiggle it around and get it to slide back there, and then it'll slide into place. What I do is I put this screw in first and then put these 3 bottom screws in. With your cone now off, you will see that your hairy plastic here, this wire is held onto the motor by 2 silver screws right here. You're going to just loosen those. Do not remove them. You don't need to remove them. Just loosen them enough to get this wire piece out. It may be a little bit tight from the factory. Again, just hold the motor itself as you loosen the screws. These I've already loosened up, so they're easy to work with, okay? If you need to, you can offset your motor just a little by rotating it back and forth to get good access for your screwdriver. Once your wire is loose like this, you're just going to push backwards and free it. Now, it may be a little bit difficult to get this bend right here past that first screw, but just keep working on it and it'll come loose like that. Take it off the second one. And now you're going to put your hairy plastic somewhere safe so you don't lose it. Your replacement hairy goes in the exact same orientation, okay? The wire just slides on. You're going to hold it in place and tighten the screws down. Don't over tighten this, you just want it snug to hold it in there. Okay, once your hairy is in there tight, that's the end of that installation. All right, to install the cone, you've got 3 screws. 1, 2, 3. The bottom hole on the cone here on the left side has a recess. That's where your short screw goes. You have to put the short screw in this hole because when your hairy flies around, if you have a long screw there, this bar is going to hit it and it's not going to work right. So make sure that you put your short screw in this hole. With your cone now installed, you're going to manually advance your hairy figure and make sure the wire isn't hitting anything. So just grab it and push it with your finger, and you can move him through his entire travel and make sure that he doesn't hit the tower or the cone. If it does, you just need to bend this wire a little bit, either up or down or out or whatever, to get it to clear. It should be pretty good out of the box, but you might have to make a little adjustment, but just make sure he moves freely. All right, the next thing that you're going to do is install your 3D printed headwig owl. This one's really easy. So the headwig plastic is on this motor here. Just reach behind this building and lift it up by hand. Now take your screwdriver and remove these 2 screws. Okay, once again, take your headwig plastic, store it somewhere safe. Take your new 3D printed piece And you're just gonna install it right back where it went. Now there should be no issue at all with clearance for this figure, but just make sure you push down, make sure he clears this roof just fine and doesn't hit or anything. If it is hitting, you can either adjust the position of your roof building or of your building just a little and bring it forward, or if you really have to, you can trim here, but you really shouldn't have that issue. We designed this to where he has plenty of clearance to go up and down. You can go ahead and install your bridge. That is very simple. You're just going to remove the backing from the adhesive, and the bridge is meant to go behind the two buildings, just like that. Okay, and that will now stick down. That's going to hide this black piece, and it will also mask the little bit of light bleed that's between the black metal bracket and the bottom of your 3D printed flat plastic piece. Okay, let's test all the pieces. With all our pieces installed, we are back in our CE Topper test menu. I am at the right snitch test right now. So I'm going to cycle through center snitch, left snitch, okay? Your next is your Harry. Make sure that you have moved that by hand and that he's clearing before you do this test, because if you don't, you could conceivably, I guess, damage your motor by having him hit and not be able to move. And then the last test is the owl. Pops up, pops down. Okay, you can go backwards, test again. You're good, okay? Everything's been installed. Congratulations. Thank you for purchasing our enhancement upgrade kit, and appreciate all of the support you guys gave to this project. Have fun.